Gwanhee is a contestant on season 3 of Netflix's Korean dating reality show Singles Inferno, and I have already analyzed multiple other contestants from the show to decode their behavior or talk about what makes them attractive or appealing. But with Gwanhee, it's a bit different to the other contestants. I don't think there's anything aspirational about his behavior, but regardless, there is something to learn about how to protect yourself from someone like him from watching him. Because per first impressions, someone like Gwanhee is attractive to many. And a guy like this usually is because it's the following qualities he relies on to get you hooked. He is charming, witty, and sharp, which does attract a few of the women on the island early on. And this video is going to focus on why and where things go wrong. And first of all, we can't really get into the rest of this video before first acknowledging that Gwanhee is in his feminine energy, his receiving energy. And the very nature of resting in receiving energy in dating is to let the other person take charge of the pursuit. And you may think that a modern woman should take no issue with this, but the problem with this is that men aren't particularly good at valuing what they haven't earned or put much effort into, and a dynamic in which you are not valued is a recipe for your suffering. Thus, a man in his receiving energy will always make you suffer one way or another. And I do have another video going deeper into the dynamics of a man in his feminine or receiving energy, centered around Jin Young from season 2. But even though Gwanhee and Jin Young are both men in their receiving energy, they are vastly different. And that's because while Jin Young just let things orbit around and come to him, Gwanhee actively attempts to provoke the women to chase and compete for him. He tells the women that he's interested in them before pulling away to say the exact same thing to other women, directly or indirectly. And while it is perfectly natural to change how you feel about someone, Gwanhee is playing multiple women at the same time, which makes everything he says to any of them completely disingenuous, and anything he could potentially build with any of them would be built on falsehood, confusion, despair, and disrespect. And remember that how things start is usually how they'll continue. He is essentially dangling a carrot of the promise of his affection in front of the women, hoping that they will bite and chase it. He continuously, explicitly, overtly, and directly challenges the women to fight for his affection and makes it verbally clear that he is comparing them to each other. Which, by the way, a healthy man who truly likes you would never do that. To me, it would seem that Gwanhee has no desire for any of these women or their well-being. He has the desire to feel their desire for and suffering over him, as well as his power over them. So not only is Gwanhee in his receiving energy, his behavior is designed to put you both into your proving and competing energy, which is a miserable, stressful place for most women to be. A man like this, you will not only be chasing, you will also be gaslit and lied to by and be made to feel like you are crazy. Because if he were to just be honest about what he wanted, you would likely stop trying for him. Because most people respond very well to honesty, but this type of man has no integrity and won't give it to you. How can you be honest about what you want when what you want includes for others to compete and suffer for you? Let me make it abundantly clear, there is nothing you can do to rationalize with or appease a guy like this, because this guy is not looking to be appeased. He's already in his preferred spot, the one where you are nagging him, pinning for him, and proving yourself to him, and he is the master of embodying this role. So you can either watch yourself slowly morph into the fit for this role, the nagging, chasing, crazy woman, or you can walk away. There really is no in between, because the man will always lead the connection, even a man in his receiving energy. A man will always take you to the level he operates on, and for a man like Gwanhee, the level is hell. So let's take a closer look at Gwanhee's behavior to get into how you notice and navigate this type of situation in your own life. Gwanhee is mostly on the defense, and he can get defensive about absolutely everything, and will assign you the role of an attacker or a nagger, even when you've really done nothing to him. And when you're not already rightfully blaming him for something he has done, he'll simply attack you first to get the ball rolling and immediately switch back into his defender role. These traps are laid by him everywhere. We see everything through our own lens, our own perspective, and Gwanhee is the master of seeing his reality through the eyes of the receiving man who is being chased after and nagged. He then approaches conversations with that view so that it's forced into reality, into being, which then reinforces his perspective to him, creating a cycle. One example is when he sits down with Gwanhee, who's actually not particularly interested in him, and then blames her for not saying hi to him. They then enter an argument of who should have said hello to the other one first. Instead, a healthier way of greeting someone you hadn't had the pleasure of talking to yet would be to simply greet them now and start a connection from there, and completely skip over the redundant argument of whose fault it isn't you haven't spoken yet. But for Gwanhee, everything is an opportunity for blame and defense. And there are multiple other situations like this where Gwanhee forces something into the counterpart of an argument instead of, well, not creating an argument out of thin air to begin with. And this extreme case of deflecting behavior makes it as good as impossible to make a authentic and healthy connection with the person displaying it. The woman on the show so far who has fallen the deepest into the quicksand of Gwanhee's behavior is Ha-young, who luckily sees through his immoral behavior. Kind of. She's brutally honest and she's willing to give it to him straight, and whilst I absolutely think that is admirable, unfortunately, most likely, honesty will fall completely flat on someone like Gwanhee. There really is nothing she can do nor say to make him change or change his mind, because he's already in his preferred spot with her. He's stuck in his own mindset, and even if she should somehow get through to him, he won't value her anyway. She should be walking away. And there is one more thing to this as well, which is that men don't tend to respond to the words that you're actually saying as much as whether or not you are saying anything at all. Regardless of what you are saying, as long as you are still talking, you are feeding your energy and attention to someone who has already put you in a suffering position. And that's what he is feeding off. She's not happy with him or chosen by him. Never go for a man you have to talk into picking you. And when you willingly suffer for a man in this sense, he will not respect nor value you. You should not be spending your energy on trying to change him. You should be saving yourself from needless suffering. As a woman, your power is in your attention. If someone ever disrespects you like this, walk off. With a guy like this, you really have to stay away and teach yourself not to want him regardless of how long it takes. And if you do pin for a guy like this, you don't truly understand your worth yet, which you need to work on so that you don't root yourself in a negative attachment, which would be detrimental to your health. The dynamic with someone like Gwanhee is one where you will eventually go and look crazy because nobody really gets or believes you. You either walk away early on or you stay long enough to become the crazy ex. And what's unique about this particular situation is that it's all televised, making it obvious to the viewer that Gwanhee is the aggravator. But when this happens in real life, it won't be as obvious to the people around you. When you are vocal about behavior like this, it's likely that people, especially men, are less likely to get it because the type of guy in this dynamic is so trained in making it seem like you are just crazy, because he has done the same to many women before you. But what is really going on is, of course, that you are having a natural reaction to crazy behavior. Again, the man leads the connection, which is why he leaves a trail of quote-unquote crazy women behind him. With this type of guy, do not bother at all. You can only walk away. And even though this analysis of Gwanhee's behavior was very requested, I really wasn't too excited to make it, because in terms of feminine and masculine energy dynamics, and even though they are present here, this is more just straight up dysfunction and is not something worth really entertaining. It's really important to rise above getting caught up in this level of dysfunction, including studying it too much, but that's just my opinion. What I really like about Singles Inferno Season 1 and 2 is the contestants that was picked and watching how their dynamics slowly unfolded. The slow burning, more modest approach and generally decent and well-meaning contestants means that we got to get a closer look at how attraction evolves and changes, as well as the personal challenges people try to overcome in friendship and romance. It's a stark contrast to many Western dating shows that seem to be filled with more suffering for the contestants and explosive drama, which to my personal taste is both painful to watch and also overshadows the intricacies of what's actually interesting and what can be learned from. Season 3 of Singles Inferno is a good example of what happens to the dynamic of a group of people when you throw in someone whose goal in social relationships, consciously or not, isn't peace or well-being, and how an individual like that contorts the structure of the entire group by working as a black hole that some will fall into and everyone else has to deal with the slow descent and destruction of the piece. The case of Gwanhee is, in my opinion, so far removed from just the interesting dynamics of the feminine and the masculine, because it is just straight up dysfunction. I have still only finished the first 5 episodes. I found it so hard to sit through watching this unfold, but I'm posting this video anyway, and I'm excited to see what has happened to these dynamics since, and if it's worth making another video about Gwanhee or some of the other contestants. If you enjoyed this video, subscribe to my channel for more and watch this video next.